Have you ever wondered what it's really like to live on one of Charleston's infamous barrier islands? I'm talking about Isle of Palm, Sullivan's Island, Kiowa, and Folly, arguably the 4 most sought-after locations in the entire Charleston metro. Each one offers something a little different, but they all have similar pros and cons that not everybody will love, so let's dive right in. To start out this video, I think it's best to give a quick overview of each island so you have a better understanding of how they vary in terms of lifestyles. Folly Beach is located about 25 minutes south of downtown Charleston and is considered to be the locals' beach. It has more of a bohemian style vibe with a strong surf culture, funky local restaurants, and a more relaxed feel to it. Folly isn't as polished as the other beach towns, and it isn't trying to be. Think flip-flops, live music at multiple local venues, and a mix of longtime islanders, surfers, and artists. You won't find a gated resort style community here or luxury shopping districts, but you will find a laid-back mix of beach bungalows and people who really value that coastal lifestyle over status. This community thrives on authenticity and enjoying the beach culture in the truest sense. And southwest of Folly Beach, about a 45-minute drive from downtown Charleston, is Kiowa, and this beach town is the polar opposite of Folly in terms of lifestyle and community aspect. It's hands down the most exclusive and private of all the Charleston beach communities. It's a fully gated island with limited public access that's known for world-class golf courses, 5-star resorts, and pristine beaches. This is not your casual local beach town. It was designed for privacy, tranquility, and high-end living. So if you're the type of person who values having top-tier amenities and spa days and private beach access, this is going to be your spot. But because Kiowa is that private and exclusive island, it doesn't really fit the scope of this video for some of the pros and cons I'm going to talk about. But if you have any questions about Kiowa and would like to learn more, I'm always available for a quick call. So traveling further northeast in the metro, you'll find Sullivan's Island and Isle of Palms right next to Mount Pleasant. Sullivan's Island is the most residential and exclusive when compared to Folly and IOP. There are no short-term rentals allowed here, no big developments, and most homes are either second homes or primary residence for folks who value privacy and peace. It's quiet, very walkable, and known for its charm, historic forts, and beautiful architecture. The beaches here are not as busy as some of the others because it's mostly used by residents, but it can still get pretty busy during peak tourist season. And lastly, Isle of Palms strikes that balance between the other two. It's more developed than Sullivan's, but more polished than Folly. It has a mix of full-time residents, vacation homes, and the Wild Dunes Resort, which draws golfers, families, and seasonal visitors. There's a wider range of housing options here, from oceanfront estates to condos and townhomes. Because short-term rentals are allowed here, it has a more touristy feel to it compared to the other 3, but this is a huge plus if you're a real estate investor. I recently made a video about how short-term rentals work on IOP, and I will link that in the video description if you want to learn more. One of the biggest pros of living in these beach towns is that you get to experience that beachfront lifestyle that everyone is dreaming about. You get to leave where other people vacation. Whether it's early morning surf sessions, evening beach walks, or dining with an ocean view, these towns offer that true coastal lifestyle in the best way. For other cities further north in Charleston Metro, it can take up to an hour and a half to get to the beach. But when you live here, you can wake up, make a cup of coffee, and be on the beach within minutes. Now, one of the biggest advantages of buying in Charleston's beach towns is that they're all in limited supply. These are barrier islands, which means there's no room to expand inland. Once the lots are gone, they're gone. That scarcity keeps demand high and property value strong, even when the broader housing market takes a hit. Over the past decade, these areas have consistently outperformed many inland neighborhoods when it comes to home appreciation. Part of that is lifestyle. The beach will always have an appeal, and part of it is there's no way to recreate this kind of location. When you combine limited inventory with national and international interest, you get a real estate market that's resilient. Sure, prices can fluctuate short-term like anywhere else, but over time, waterfront and walk-to-the-beach homes are almost always going to bounce back faster than other markets. You're buying something that people will want in the decades to come. Let's compare regions where prices grew the most, and at least since COVID, to give you a better idea. Since 2020, Kiowa has had the highest price growth for single-family homes to the tune of 97.4% increase. That's $1 million higher than where it started pre-pandemic. Folly has actually had the least price growth during the same period to the tune of around $70,000 to $80,000 or 8.2% from where we were in 2020. This is likely due to the fact that a lot of people who live here don't want to sell their homes, and most importantly, in 2023, they capped the amount of short-term rental permits, so now there's a really long waiting list. This had a huge impact on home prices here, and we saw most of the pandemic gains get wiped away overnight to the tune of about a 20% loss. But this appreciation still outpaces many of the Charleston suburban areas because they're always in high demand. This matters for a number of reasons. One of the biggest reasons is strong resale potential. Even if you decide to sell down the road, there's usually a built-in buyer pool for island homes because people always want them. And in Isle of Palms, you can actually use your home as a short-term rental to help offset ownership costs if you spend your summers or your winters in other places. Another huge pro of living in these beach towns is that you get the best of both worlds with the historic city a short drive away. Think about it, you get to live in a peaceful coastal setting without giving up the culture, dining, and job opportunities available in the Charleston metro. In my opinion, this is perhaps one of the biggest perks of Charleston's beach towns. Unlike other beaches around South Carolina, like Hilton Head or Myrtle Beach, Charleston is known for so much more than just being a tourist destination. For Folly Beach, Sullivan's Island, and Isle of Palms, you're roughly 20 to 30 minutes from downtown Charleston with usual traffic. That means dinners at top-rated restaurants, shopping on King Street, and catching a concert at Charleston Music Hall is easily within your reach. And when you're ready to head back home, you can go back to that tranquil, relaxed environment in no time. It's a perfect setup, close enough to enjoy everything Charleston has to offer, but far enough to avoid the noise, traffic, and pace of the city. When you're on the islands, it really does feel like you've hit the pause button, and when you want to experience a faster pace of life and more amenities, it doesn't take long to get to them. And now that I've covered the pros of living in Charleston's beach towns, let's talk about some of the cons. The first is the higher cost of living and expensive property prices. You won't be living on a budget when you choose to purchase a home here. You're paying for the zip code, the lifestyle, and a whole lot of salt air upkeep. Over the past 12 months, the most expensive beach town was Sullivan's Island, with a median sales price of $3.7 million for single-family homes, and there were no townhomes or condos sold here in the past year. The second most expensive place was Kiowa, with a median sales price of $2.5 million for single-family homes, and townhomes and condos sold for around $895,000. The third most expensive beach town was Isle of Palms, the median sales price of $2.3 million for single-family homes, and for townhomes and condos, the median sales price was around $613,000. And finally, Folly Island was the least expensive out of the four, with a median sales price of $1.6 million for single-family home, and for townhomes and condos, the median sales price was around $830,000. So as you can see, condos and townhomes are pretty consistent around the 800 mark, but depending on the island, single-family homes can fluctuate wildly. These elevated prices mean higher property taxes, especially on Sullivan's Island, which has a millage rate that is nearly 8 times higher than the city of Charleston, which is why cost of living is higher too, but there's some other contributing factors. FEMA flood maps place most of the land on these islands in high-risk zones, and flood insurance premiums can easily run several $1,000s annually. And you can expect more frequent home maintenance costs living next to the ocean too. Salt air, humidity, and storms take a toll on roofs, siding, decks, and HVAC systems. Maintenance and replacement cycles are shorter here than homes located inland, so you can expect to spend more in the long run over time. For example, the normal lifespan of an HVAC system is 15 to 20 years, but living by the ocean can literally cut this in half due to rust and metal deterioration. Plus, grocery and retail prices are often more expensive at island stores compared to areas more inland because the cost of doing business is higher here. These are all important factors to take into consideration when you purchase a home on one of these islands because they will affect your bottom line. The trade-off though is that you don't have to deal with the busyness of living in the metro, which means less time spent in the traffic and more privacy. For most people, this is worth the extra expense. Another con of living in one of the Charleston beach towns is that there are limited day-to-day amenities. One of the trade-offs of island living is you don't have the same convenience that you would find in a suburban hub like Mount Pleasant or West Ashley. These beach towns have great restaurants, boutique shops, and maybe a small grocery or convenience store, but you're not going to find any big box retailers, department stores, or a wide variety of service providers right on the island. On Folly, there are some great local spots and small markets for essentials, but most major errands require a trip to James Island or West Ashley. Sullivan's Island has an incredible dining for its size, but has limited gas stations, chain stores, and no grocery stores, so residents drive into Mount Pleasant or IOP for everything. Isle of Palms is arguably the best place to live in terms of amenities because of its tourism, so you can find some grocery stores, but many people are going to travel to Harris Teeter across the IOP connector anyway. The silver lining here is that all of these islands are a short drive away from major cities. In most cases, you can drive to large grocery stores or a big box retailer in about 10 or 15 minutes. So while this is slightly inconvenient, this is the price you pay for exclusivity. Shifting gears a little bit, let's talk about another con, which is seasonal traffic and living amongst tourism. One of the realities of living in a beach town is that it's not just home to residents, but also a destination for tourists, day trippers, and seasonal visitors. When summer hits, the popularity of these show up in the form of traffic, crowded beaches, and busier restaurants. Folly Island is the one that feels this impact the most because it's the favored beach by most locals in Charleston. So this mix of tourist and local traffic means people commuting here can spend nearly an hour in bumper-to-bumper traffic depending on the time of day. That goes all the way back to James Island. Isle of Palms sees heavy seasonal traffic too, especially on the IOP connector coming from Mount Pleasant. Public beach access brings in visitors from all over the metro, but this island doesn't have a cap on short-term rentals, and it's packed with vacationers during peak season. On the other hand, Sullivan's Island mostly avoids the full tourist crash because there are no hotels or short-term rentals, but its proximity to Mount Pleasant does mean that it gets busy on weekends and holidays. A lot of traffic travels through Jasper Boulevard, which is the main road that connects IOP to Sullivan's Island, so folks who don't use the IOP connector can use this road to get to IOP. and it can get backed up during peak hours in the summer. There are also popular restaurants on Sullivan's Island, so parking can be tough to find, especially during time of day. And locals or tourists who know the area well enough and want to avoid crowded beaches will come to Sullivan's Island, but probably not to the same extent as Folly or Isle of Palms, thanks to its mostly residential community. The good news is that because you live on an island, you're not going to be impacted by travel or travel times, but you will have to deal with longer wait times at restaurants, and finding parking can be a headache if a store isn't within walking distance. However, living here is still incredibly convenient compared to living off the island, and a little intentional planning goes a long way, especially if commuting to work isn't required. So living on one of Charleston's infamous barrier islands is a unique opportunity to experience the coastal life right next to the historic city. You literally get to live where countless people vacation and still have close access to everything Charleston has to offer, but it does cost a premium and maintenance costs do tend to be higher. But for the right people, the convenience of living right next to the ocean is a small price to pay, and you're in freaking Charleston. If you have any questions about real estate on these islands or any other city in the Charleston metro, please don't hesitate to reach out. As one of the top real estate teams here in the Lowcountry, we want to earn your business and be your resource for all things real estate. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.